sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is not coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, it's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've been. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. There are leaves on the trees, and there's touch of the breeze. There's a pleasing sense of happiness I found. The world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world. Morris, and you're listening to ET Radio. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops out there spinning around smartly with us on the planet. We're glad you're still here, and tonight we are connecting to the Ascension Center, Hawaii. It's on Maui, Hawaii, Maui, the island of Hawaii. And Janet Share Lessin is joining us from the retreat center there, where she shares with her husband, Dr. Alexander Sasha Lessin. They also have a radio show called the Aquarian Radio, and she and I will be simulcasting simultaneously tonight. And I have been on the phone with Andrew Aloha, which is going to join us next week. We both have shows, many of us have shows, and we're starting to cross-pollinate as Janet will have it. And Janet called in last week, and she just called me, and I don't have her phone number I'm trying to find it now to call her, so I'm going to wait for her to call us in on our show as she did last week. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Ascension Center, and hopefully she will call in just a moment as she was setting up her show. Her show was already set up, and mine was not showing for whatever reasons, but we're on now. I just hope she can find us. And if I can find the number to her show, then we can connect
to her show, and it's not showing the phone number right now, so I'm trying to figure out how does one get the phone number when one from her show. So, Janet, if you can hear me out there in the background, probably not because you're on your show. If someone wants to assist me here and grab the phone number, it would be most, says upcoming her show says live. So she's on right now as well. And now all I have to do is figure out how to get us connected. And from what I understand, I just have to call her. So I've got to contact her. She's going to call in the show here. But while I'm waiting for us to figure that out so we can both talk to you tonight as we started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Ascension Center organization. Now, we have various people around the world with various ways of thinking, and Janet and I were both on the same page when it came to studying our spirituality and how life could have more meaning and purpose with the people that we meet. And at the same time, we were working with people that were interested in UFOs, and she and I had some MUFON connections at a mutual UFO network. And she and I were also interested in coming together and meeting and having a conference, which we had learned through her going to various conferences that she enjoyed meeting people and sharing energy and listening to the speakers. And the standard way of doing it is to have maybe a room for lectures and a room for vendors and, of course, a room for workshops. And she's been going several years, many years, to the IUFO Congress. And before it was in Fort McDowell, Arizona, there at the Messiah Center. They have a casino there as well, but it was in Laughlin, Nevada. And people with the IUFO Congress show up yearly. And when she was there, she was talking to several people, and including Bob Dean, and they thought we should have another one possibly get together in October, which we're working on now if we can find a good venue. And of course we're still talking about getting together annually on the Samhain or Halloween and the first few days. And this time Halloween is perfectly on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and then we could also meet Monday to share our various groups. And many of us have various groups and various ways of speaking to each other as to how we can communicate and come up with our own ideas. And we're looking at sharing talks of our artists and our authors that are interested in the future in sharing extraterrestrial contact. And we've had many people share their stories, and several radio shows have shared many thousands of people that say they've had contact. And it's changing the world, absolutely. And very many spiritual people are changing the world. And our tags are Ascension, UFO, contactees, ET, NDE, OBE. I've had near-death experiences out of body, spirituality, life coaching, women and women entrepreneurs. And we all have the old paradigm way of thinking that we need our ways to come together and share. And many people want to share their products. And there's various conferences that come together around the world. And Ascension Center is a group of people that are wanting together and share their energy for raising consciousness in the future in the Ascension Age. So there's many people, and many of us have had our websites. We meet on Facebook. We have many social networking groups and Twitter and Pinterest and all these ways in social media these days online. And many people are talking about virtual networking together, virtual reality. Many people have their own webinars, and they're using the free Google and Google Meetups, and people are still having the old-timey type of get-togethers in their various cities at meetup groups, and people that want to know people that are spiritual, not just about drinking, drugging, dancing, et cetera, although I do love dancing. I'm not big into drinking and drugging, but to each his own. Now, there are herbs that some shaman in my spiritual community use, and I would say that that's different, including those that want to do the DMT or dimethyltryptamine and their way of getting to the other side spiritually if they haven't been shocked out of their bodies for one reason or another, or like I did, out-of-body near-death experiences. And I'm just wondering, where do you find the number to call in on your page? But we have various topics we can discuss, but where Janet and I were actually telling our story from the beginning of where we can remember our first conscious reality, our meaning behind our own selves, and how we got to be who we are today. And I'm wondering if right now, if I can get her on so we can both talk. I've boosted mine up to 90 minutes, and right now I wouldn't. I'm trying to figure. It says Aquarian Radio, Janet Carroll live, waiting for host to call in for Janet. So I guess I should call her. Let me do that right now. See if I can get her, and let's see how this works. Dial, and then I'm going to put in her number and let her. I don't have her show number, though. Let me put in and see if I can get her on her. Maybe she's waiting for me to call her back. But this is the whole point in getting to know people and using the technology we have today. 1-808-244-4103, dial. Please enter a valid phone number. Maybe I should turn this up. It's turned up. Is that not a valid phone number? I would think it is. Now, maybe do you just don't have to put in the 1? Okay. Now she's probably on Skype. Come to think of it. Okay. Well, let me try Skype. TJ Morris. I'll put in my password, and as I'm talking to you guys out there, so you know this is the new technology, folks, and everybody wants to use Skype these days. I know she was Skyping in, and maybe we can Skype in, although my Skype's not there, but it should be in just a moment. You could hear the sound of getting on. And sharing the future with our Ascension Center and our DivineExpo.com. We've got various people that are working together, and we're talking about spirituality and spiritual entrepreneurs coming together and learning to work together. So why is mine not showing a Skype sign? I don't know. So, Janet, if you can hear me, I'm actually on right now, live, and I guess I've got to figure out how to connect with you so we can do our show today. And tell you what, I think what I'm going to do is figure out how to get us connected, and I will reset my show. For those of you listening right now, if you'll stand by, because I don't know how to get in contact with her, but why don't I try to call her on my, let me unlock this, and I will try to call her on the phone if you guys will just bear with me for a moment. Let me see if she answers. Select contacts. This is the way I get to, well, I don't have to do that. Let's see. This is ridiculous, how to do everything at one time and not get anything accomplished, right? But we're trying to get where we can do both shows at the same time and get her on here so we can talk together. I don't mind talking to you alone. Let's see. No, open. Hey, can you hear me? Okay, I'm doing my show right now, but I don't have your number to call you on the phone. You want to call in on okay. I'm online right now. We're talking on the show. It's 1 hour and 13 minutes in, and I'm just telling everybody we're trying to get connected right now. So can you get on your show? Just me and you. It's just me and you. I'm talking to you now on the radio show. So can you call? Yeah, well, you get on your show and then call me in, I guess, on the little phone, right? What is? Oh, okay. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, so she's going to call in on my show, and that way we are connected. So, what? You got to call in? You want me to give you a number? Okay, guest call in. Here we are, 347-945-7207. This is something we're trying out, folks, and you're all a part of this experiment for Wednesday nights. So Tom says he'll come on and share. 347-945-7207, Tom. And I've got a little bit of an allergy sinus thing going on, so I hope you guys everyone can hear me and try to have a clear voice tonight. But it'll be nice to have Tom come on while we're waiting on Janet to come online. And Wednesday nights, which I haven't been marketing and promoting yet because we're still working out the kinks, so we can simulcast 2 shows on Blog Talk Radio at the same time live. Now, Janet, like I said, has the Ascension Center organization in Hawaii, and I am going to read to you our basic understanding of what we are doing with other human beings at the time on the planet. But we started this in Hawaii, and the ancient mystery schools were opened in 1989 to 94. We, the members of the Ascension Center, ascribe to the highest standards of excellence with regard to the uplifting of humankind by providing spiritual and educational awareness. So the Ascension Center was founded for spiritual growth, education, and continued research for the communication of truth. So that's what we are about. Now, Tom, you're now live and on the air. How are you tonight, my husband? How are you?
No, I'm kicking. Not very high, but I'm kicking.
Okay. Well, Janet's waiting to try to share, which you tried to help us out and gave us a call in last time. But I'm actually keeping it on the air tonight live, and we're going to do 90 minutes. You want to tell people a little bit about your background with military, and you served 13 years and roughly 13 on the road, right? So you've got 26 years. Am I misquoting your time on the road? I know you got 13 years in the military. How about on the road?
I got close to 14 military and 13 on the road.
Wonderful. And people on the road, that means driving a semi drive-in. And we met, and we apparently met prior, or not maybe met, but worked together on prior missions or projects. And we came together in 1995. So, Tom, you want to tell people about your book, or would you like to talk about something else?
Well, I've got several. I got one. It's more or less a sci-fi story. It's a story based on the facts. I can't say that it's 100% factual, but I can say that it is as close as the law allow me to get.
Okay. Now, we haven't published that book yet, so you want to give people now, he has published Spy Games and what's the name of your other book, Tom, that's out there? The Package, right, that you're selling presently, the Package?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the Package first, I guess. The Package is the main character is Scott Tyler. He has to go to West Berlin and cross over into East Berlin and get a defector and bring him back to West Berlin. And then from Berlin,
Janet, you're connected now, and Tom is talking to us and filling in for us tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's great. Sorry that we had this misunderstanding about time. I am here, so go ahead, Tom. It sounded something like you were saying something really interesting, so I'll just listen for a while.
Okay, Thomas Ray Morris talking, just introducing himself. Thomas Ray Morris of Beaver Dam, Ohio County, Kentucky. He's my husband. And, Tom, we're going to get you to mention the package and spy games, and then we'll get back into the reason you called in is the book, Janet, that he has written that we're working on, and that is the book of space travel and science fiction that I'm sure you'd be most interested in. All right, thank you, Tom. Sorry for the butt in there, but I didn't want to lose Janet since she finally got on with us. Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
All right. Well, the book is basically trying to get the defector, which is a nuclear physicist from West Berlin, back before the wall went down, to Germany and then on to the States, to West Germany and on to the States. Having to go across East Germany to do so. He's a little small man and can't speak English, only Russian. And our hero, or main character, can't speak Russian at that time, so more or less the little guy is the comedy relief. And it's a very interesting story and the way it was accomplished. The best part in the book for me was when the main character's arch enemy and him play a game of chess in a safe house. That was the best part of the book as far as I'm concerned. I can tell you with full confidence that actually happened. There's no fabrication at all. Matter of fact, most of the book there's no fabrication. Regrettably, 3 FBI men died in it. Several East German soldiers, and it cost their lives, and them are facts. Regrettably. And then the other book, it's called Spy Games, and it's about our main character, Scott Tyler, capturing a known terrorist. Actually, he was not a terrorist himself. He didn't place bombs, but he got information, ammunition, and explosives for the terrorists that did set the bombs. And he was on the wanted list for 10 years before he was actually captured, tried, convicted, and sent to prison. And it's the story of the capture of, I named him. People think it's funny, but I changed the names of all of my characters to protect the guilty. So Wolfgang was not his real name, but that's what he's named in the book. And this is a story of an actual CIA operative that I got known very well. It told me the story, and I'm just relaying it. The next book Theresa wants me to talk about is the sci-fi book. I'm afraid I used the same character as my detective, Scott Tyler, but he goes a roundabout way figuring out that the aircraft that was crashed in Roswell in 1947 was still intact and still totally mobile and ready to fly. And in his search for the weapon system on this aircraft, he discovered he could fly it. So he flew it and ended up finding the command ship back behind the moon, and he spent some time up there, and the story tells all about what the ship looked like, what the transport ship, which has been nicknamed Gus, what its purpose was and how it happened, and the real story on what happened, in Roswell in 47. And then you have to read the book to get the rest of it.
Okay, what's the name of that book? Is it not...
I don't know. I think it's...
Taken Up,
I forgot. I think so. I'm not sure. I know it's not taken up because no one took him up. He flew up on his own.
Well, Taken Up is about us going up, I believe. But
I can't remember what I named it. But you've got it on disc back there, so.
Okay, well, we're still working on the mainframe, but we've got several books out, folks, on Amazon and CreateSpace, Amazon.com, and I believe the one that is most readily available is what Tom's speaking of, is called Taken Up, and we welcome. I'll check it out, Tom, but I'm pretty sure that's it. But why don't we get Janet on here before Janet and I get into our history, and I know you get tired and want to leave because you usually do. Janet, why don't you ask Tom a few questions that you may want to know, and then we'll get to our story. I booked 90 minutes on our show this time. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? There we go.
There we go.
I had put it on mute. I had it on mute, so I was like, which button is it? Okay.
Okay. Well,
that's fascinating, Tom. I really appreciate that you've written these books because this is an important part of our global history. It's the mark of the modern UFO era and the beginning of disclosure. And so this book is so important. And maybe when we're done with this, TJ, you can figure out which book it is, and we can get the link and promote it far and wide so people can read this.
Well, she hasn't corrected the spelling and put it in the computer yet, so.
All right. Well,
in other words, she hasn't edited it, I should say.
We've got several out there called Roswell UFO Encounters and the Taken Up Volume 1 that basically is a lot of Tom's story. And the one that part of his book is actually in Taken Up. It's Theresa of Ascension, but it's one of the Ascension Age books, Volume 1, Theresa Morris and Thomas R. Morris, and it's actually out in paperback, November 20, 2013, from last year. So, Janet, that's the one with the ship on the front of it that Bill M. Tracer did the rendition, artist rendition. It is called Taken Up series of books by Thomas R. and Theresa J. Morris. I've got a lot of your story in there. Friends in the alien ET UFO community now share there may be room for more than disclosure of the multidimensional kind. So it's out there. I just haven't been marketing and promoting it yet. But, folks, if you'd like to take a look, Taken Up, Theresa J. Morris and Thomas R. Morris. And Tom is actually hopefully going to tell from the beginning to the end, but this book was Taken Up Chapter 13 from the Space Command in One series that Janet has. So, Tom, this book starts off with Gus. It says, Thomas and Sarah walked up the ramp into the Galaxy Universal Shuttle called Gus. So, this was the name that Sarah had named it at some 3 months earlier when she and Tom started working on the aircraft. Tom had been working on it for 3 months before being joined by Sarah, and Tom had already learned about Gus. Now, Gus called it Gus, and I adopted it for the Galaxy Universal Shuttle. But ironically, Tom had learned about this and called it Gus. And he called it the Internal Computer Generated Intelligence System, Gus, and it had a male voice. So I would like Janet to sort of interact, if it's okay with you two. It says it had a male voice, and Tom, what seemed a personality, when Tom learned that only he could fly the aircraft not of Earth origin, he at first thought this was man-made. Now, there was 2 in the beginning, Janet, because Janet can get into all the detail, but it did require 2 in the beginning, and either one of us could fly it as co-commanders. And later on in life, Tom gets so sick, he turns his power over to me. But he actually fixed it where he could fly it alone. And that's why it's a little confusing to Janet over these many years, Tom, because there's a time when you flew with it without my assistance. And this book is more about us working together. Remember where we took off from El Paso in the sandy badlands of New Mexico? We
right,
talked about
in the book,
that.
from what I remember, TJ, in the book, the way you had told it originally, I don't know if you were kind of covering up the story, but in the original book, basically you guys discovered it together, the way you unfolded it, after you were taken to Area 51. So there was some kind of that. So I don't know what was the real story.
Well, let me set you straight here. The story actually is that I was sent to New Mexico to find the weapon systems on the aircraft. Theresa, however, wasn't there at that time, so I guess you could say I discovered the aircraft first, and I learned a lot about it. And then I went back to Fort Hood, and then later we came back and we met later.
At the El Paso airport.
Yeah, well, actually at the little shack.
I guess what's confusing is, where was the first time you laid eyes on each other and met? Was it that shack in El Paso, according to the book?
No, ma'am.
Actually, but we won't go there.
Well, actually, I laid eyes on Theresa several years earlier through a weapon scope.
Okay.
Then
you weren't aiming it at her.
But here, face to face, yes, the shack was the first place, and then we met again driving a truck.
So you were formally introduced at the shack.
Yeah.
What was the shack? Where was this shack that you were introduced?
Face to face, we was in the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico. Actually, it was White Sands, New Mexico.
Was it love at first sight, or what was your first impression of each other when you met each other?
I didn't trust her. I was trained to not trust anyone, and I'm still that way. I try to force myself out of it, but it's so deep in me, I just don't trust anybody. I figured sooner or later they'll show their true colors. But it was a whole lot worse back then because I was active duty. I was so, you know, some guy would come up to you and smile and talk to you friendly while his buddy was stabbing you in the back. It reminds you of king cobras. I don't know if you know anything about them, but they're a very beautiful snake if you like snakes. The male snake he's the one that can spread his head, and he does his little dance.
Yeah.
And the female cobra, she don't spread her head. She's a black, slender-bodied snake, and they run in pairs. And the king cobra, the male, will get up in front of you, and he'll do his little dance and spread his head and keep your attention. Why, the female comes around behind you and bites you.
Wow. They work as a team.
They do that with humans or with animals. The snake will get up in front of a mouse and hypnotize the mouse. You know, and that's what it was originally. That's why the good Lord gave him this gift. And the mouse will stand still because he sees that snake, and he's afraid to move because he's afraid the snake will bite him, you know, and get him. And Mama comes around and gets him. So it's a hunting technique.
When the mother snake bites the female snake, Who gets to eat the mouse?
Well, it depends on, I guess, which one's hungry. You know, I mean, if Mama's hungry, she's going to just swallow it and go on with it and catch another one and give it to him. They don't actually bite their prey if they're going to eat it because they're allergic to the poison themselves. If they bit something and then
how do they kill
eat it, well, they don't usually kill it. They swallow it alive and whole. All snakes swallow the food whole.
How do they get it to stand still long enough for them to get their mouth?
She'll hold it in their mouth. I've seen them hold it in their mouth.
Oh,
and
wow.
She'll carry it over, and when she drops it on the ground, he'll snatch it up. I mean, they're the fastest creatures on Earth.
Wow.
So it's really fascinating to watch them in their natural habitat. Just don't
unless you're being chased by one.
Side. Right. Just don't get on the wrong side.
So did you think that she was like that, a snake that you couldn't trust?
Yes, of course. Now, I thought that of everyone. Let's give Theresa her due. I thought that of everyone because they had been trying to kill me for, about 8-9 years. And so
how did you start to learn to trust her then? What happened that made you begin to trust her? You obviously trust her, you married her.
Well, there was an old saying years and years ago. And it was, of course, it was repeated to me several times over the period of years. Keep your friends closer, but keep your enemies closer. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. And when we first met, as far as I was concerned, she was there to either spy on me or kill me for another country, because I had several countries that really wanted me dead.
So is that why, like in the Bond movies, the James Bond is always having sex with the enemy agents that are gorgeous?
I suppose that is. I never really thought about it.
Yeah. When you were saying that, all these Bond movies went flashing before my eyes, and I went, "Wow, that's what happens. You keep your enemies close, so close you make love with them."
Yeah.
Wow,
there was
that's
one
fascinating.
they had where he was in a heart-shaped bed with this girl, and she jumps out of the bed, and the bed folds up into the wall, and these two guys run in there with machine guns and just fill the bed full of lead. And then the next scene, he's on a ship. How he got out of that, I never did know.
Wow.
Well, I guess if somebody had to play it in a movie, I always loved James Bond, and I loved Sean Connery, the first one. People have asked me that before, because that's how I got into being a spy, was being recruited out of a James Bond movie. But I think Tom would have in this day, Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible shows, right, would probably play Tom. Me is a draw. I had black hair then, long black hair. But who was married to Brad Pitt? Angelina Jolie, what's her name?
Yeah, Angelina Jolie, yeah. So you want her to play you?
Yeah, that would be probably, because she does her own stunts, and I would probably...
she's getting older. She's getting older. You're probably going to want a younger one now.
Well, I think they would be easily...
I mean, you were in your 20s, right? There's a lot of really...
No, we were in our 30s.
Oh, you were in your 30s, okay.
I started out, I was not yet 21.
But when we met, Tom, you were 5 or 6 years older. 87.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember. We debated.
So TJ, what was your first impression of Tom? Did you fall madly in love, or did you not trust him?
Well, he was an assignment.
What were your thoughts?
At first,
I know, but what's your thoughts?
He was hot. He was hot. I mean, he was a good-looking man. It's just like looking at Tom Cruise, if anybody thinks he's good-looking. Tom was extremely good-looking, extremely sexy, deep voice.
But I got the hell beat out of me with an ugly stick.
And he didn't use his. He and I both talk more with a Southern accent since we came back home. But back then, neither of us had an accent. We both had traveled world. He'd been living in Europe and Germany and working for President Reagan. I was working for President Reagan, and Reagan wanted to know the truth.
And by the way, Reagan was
a lot.
Reagan was a true.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Reagan was a true UFO believer. He had seen a UFO in earlier years. He knew about the crash. Of course, he was around in 47, so he knew about the crash, and he also knew the hype and then the bull crap, and he wanted to know which was real and which was fake.
And we had both met him, and he basically put us together.
Okay, so
ways.
I thought you were an arranged marriage. Yes, you were arranged.
We are.
An arranged
We
marriage.
were. Well, not an arranged marriage. By the time we got married was 5 years later.
Orchestrated.
It was orchestrated, but we didn't know it. We had to learn that we were. He didn't know I met Reagan, and I didn't know he met Reagan. And by the time I was talking to him, we had already been. Dick Cheney didn't know that Reagan had sent me. President Bush didn't know that Reagan had sent me. And so everybody thought I was working on their team. And I couldn't tell each man that I was working for the other. It was very messed up.
So Reagan approached you. Let me flesh that one out there. Reagan approached you and sent you where? To what was your assignment?
To actually learn information that Tom had about, but not only from Tom, because the second time Tom went in, they didn't want to assist Tom with the information, and we thought it may be coming from other places, such as Cheney or Bush.
What information? What were you trying to? What information were you trying to get?
Reagan didn't trust Bush or Cheney.
Smart man. He's born the same day as me, same birthday. Yeah.
And he didn't trust a lot of people, but he used his private line, and he used and a lot of things about Reagan people didn't know. And now Tom was always called as well, but Tom got to know him way before he worked on the ship, as did I. So we met under proper diplomatic protocol. Tom was being offered for catching the package. It all goes together, Janet. Tom, when he came
I was given a medal for capturing Wolfgang. And Reagan presented it to me. I was in Europe, and they sent me back to the States for the sole purpose of Reagan presenting the medal to me, which was and he surprised them all by promoting me, and he signed my promotion. That don't sound like a big deal unless you're in the military. The law or the regulations in the military says that it has to be a person of equal rank or a grade above in order to bust a soldier. So if a captain signs a man's orders promoting him, then it has to be a captain or a major to bust him. Well, the president signed my promotion papers or orders, so it would take the president of the United States or Congress to bust me. So, and of course I knew this, and I took advantage of it several times. Telling colonels to piss off and hell generals go to hell, and because they couldn't do anything about it.
Well, only if they wanted you to share information that Reagan didn't want you sharing with them, and they didn't understand, and they were trying to use chain of command.
I mean,
I want to go back to this information. This is so vague. You were saying, TJ, that you were supposed to get information from Tom and from other people. So what information?
This is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun story, Janet, because there's my story, Tom's story, the government story, the ET
real story,
and then how it all blends together. And none of us really know. We don't know how it all.
That's life. You could have 10 people witness an accident, and you interview them independently, and they're all going to have their perspective. It's like the elephant in the room, the blind people holding the elephant in the room. We know that. There is no such thing as the truth. We can only have
I have my story back
story.
to the cradle, and you and I will do that separate from Tom. But while Tom's here, I know you want to get my story, and it will be a little unique. But while we're both here,
let's just say we are. You're not answering the question. So,
okay.
What was the information that Reagan said? Reagan said
they wouldn't tell me only that it was classified material, and that I was really.
How can you get it if you don't know what it is?
Well, because my specialty was extraterrestrial and ET, because of my background with ESP. And I had a very elusive way about me. Plus, I had been sent after other men before. So Tom read my file. He knows what I'm good at. Tom, what would you say how would you say coming after you?
No. This is your story. We want to hear it. We'll hear from Tom in a moment. Don't pass the thought. See how elusive you are? You are elusive. You're so elusive.
I'm very good at it.
From your understanding that you were supposed to get information, I mean, that's so vague. Come on. You were supposed to get ET information.
I was told
is that what you're saying?
Tom was sharing classified information with the public. And I said if there was any classified information being given out, I would find out.
So he was leaking to the public?
Supposedly.
According to what you were told. We don't know what he was actually doing. That was the story you were told for you to target Tom and go after him and get him to
stop
doing this.
It was a secret. The extraterrestrial.
And that was after I was out of the military, and they was afraid that I was selling secrets to the
Chinese,
Russians, or the Russians or whoever.
I didn't know Tom already knew the Emperor of China, personally. They sent me after somebody that could outdo me, no matter what I did. He could outdo me.
Okay, so let's stick with your side of the story. So you thought that Tom was leaking secrets. The President of the United States of America was personally asking you to go after him, and what were you supposed to do once you found out?
For one, it wasn't Reagan that sent her after me. It was Bush. Reagan had already retired, so he retired in '88. And it was old man Bush that, Senior Bush.
Bush Senior. I remember, yes.
Me and him didn't get along. We went to a party one time, a political rally party. Reagan made me come, and Bush was trying to pump me for information, and he was asking me questions and stuff, and I told him, I said, Reagan wants me to come to these parties so I can get to know these political people in the party, because in '88 he's going to back me for president. And it really upset Bush. This was early on. I mean, this was like in 1981, 82.
It is a layered story, Tom, and chronologically, because with them each sending me after the information, it was disguised. because Reagan wanted to know ET information and wanted it from me.
Well, Reagan
but he
was
wanted it
retired.
from you, too. Not
Reagan
when I was
was
sent
retired.
after the ET information. What you're talking about is when Bush sent me after the classified. So, yeah, that story, maybe it is intertwined, because when we're telling a story, it depends on what year and who sent me, because I get sent back again. It's like you said, you saw me through the scope. Tom, you and I have never actually sat down with the details on a chronological chart as to who sent who at what time on the planet. So it's very
83 or 84. You went to Africa?
Yes. Well, Tom, I never told people. I mean, the details. So don't tell that stuff.
Okay, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to stick with the ET stuff, because the story that I read with your Roswell
UFO encounter, that was our first release.
UFO encounters. That was a story which apparently now is not totally accurate. It's fictionalized, because Tom had already been on the craft before you met him.
Right.
And the way
so
the book unfolds is that you and Tom were on the craft for the first time. What I want to get is the piece of information with Reagan. I don't care about Bush or anybody else. I just want.
Yeah, the Reagan years. She's born on the same day as Reagan.
When both times that I went to White Sands, Reagan gave me a little black box. Now, I'm sure that you've heard of the little black boxes that you find bugs with and all this other good stuff from James Bond. This here was a scrambler light. You put it on the phone, you plug the phone line at it, and then another line goes into it and plugs up to the phone, and it's got to go through that little black box. Well, it scrambles it, and only the person with another little black box like that, it'll translate for them. You know, it'll go back to English. Otherwise, you can pick it up, and all it sounds like is a bunch of gibberish.
Right.
Well, each time, I carried one from 1981 up until, Reagan even got out of office. I still had it. When I got out of the service, I destroyed it. Reagan had passed away by then, I think. I'm not positive.
No, Reagan just died a couple years ago.
Yeah, okay. And I had lost touch with him. So he got out in 88. I kept in touch with him until 91, and I went to Desert Storm in 91, and we lost contact. You know, I never talked to him again after 91, which is one of my little regrets, because I liked Reagan. Reagan was as honest as he could be.
He died 10 years ago, by the way.
Right, but he also wasn't able to talk much. I mean, he was
he had Alzheimer's.
In that Alzheimer's phase for 10 years. So from about 94, maybe 96 or something, he was in Alzheimer's. So you wouldn't be able to talk to him anyway.
Tom went over to California once he was not president and met with him and Nancy at the ranch. Of course, the ranch isn't there now. But anyway, Tom met him. He was still talking good after he got out of office, wasn't he, Tom?
Yeah, the problem, it started out with Reagan couldn't remember where he had stopped. Say he was in the middle of a sentence and someone interrupted him, and he couldn't remember where he was at in that chain of thought. So he'd have to start all over at the beginning and go all through it again.
Right.
That was the first signs of his Alzheimer's. And he had that the last year that he was in office. Reagan was straining to keep it together. Mrs. Reagan would step in and answer questions and remind Ronald
Well, they were
Reagan.
very much in love. Nancy and Ronnie were
together
very
in
much in love.
1940. I think they got together in 44 or 45. It was right after the war, and they married right after the war.
He was in the Army and the Air Force.
Well,
wow.
he was
actually,
he spent, I think he told me one time he spent 30 days on active duty. The rest of the time he was in Hollywood making war movies and supporting the troops in that manner. Well, the entertainment branch, just like George Burns and all of them.
He was in 37 to 45 as a captain. I just looked it up, but he was. Yeah, he was a movie star. He was married to Jane Wyman and then Nancy Davis, which we know as Nancy Reagan. So they were married 52 2004.
52? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I never knew their exact wedding date. I knew they got married right after the war.
But he knows Nancy real well, too. He knows Nancy real well,
So
too.
after he left office, Tom, you went over to his place, but there was a certain point where you lost touch with each other, and then he died in 2004.
He was in pretty bad shape when I went to see him. I flew in on leave. It was just before the war, and I flew on. Of course, I was military, so I could fly military planes, ride on military planes to wherever I wanted to go if they was going in that direction. And it didn't cost me anything. So I went to California.
So you were basically his favorite that he called upon for what he needed to get done.
Yeah.
So you were like his secret agent.
If he had a problem that needed to be solved, he called me.
Well, like he called you when he got shot. But he did a lot of investigations for President Reagan that people, including the Secret Service and the Army, don't even know about. And I know that.
My question is, with all this stuff that we're bantering around, did you finally get him and give him information about the extraterrestrials and UFOs?
Oh, yes.
Did Reagan know?
I was telling you
I
that
always
box.
thought Reagan knew.
He did.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier about that box. Well, I took it and I could plug it up to any phone, and I called Reagan every night at midnight while I was at White Sands. I might have missed a few nights, but I would call his study phone, and he'd be in his study with that black box hooked to his phone, waiting for the call.
That's very interesting because there's a series out right now called Scandal, and the woman called, or the president called this woman every night at midnight in on a special line. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. Well, we were talking anywhere between 5 minutes to an hour, sometimes even longer than that. And it was basically what I had found out about the aircraft. I don't like to call it a UFO because it's not. It's not unidentified anymore.
The alien craft, the gray craft. So when did he first learn this? What year did you first give him intelligence on the extraterrestrial craft? What year was that?
I believe that it was. It was around 93. 83.
83.
Yeah, when I first. Excuse me.
What year
was he?
Reagan was in office from 91. He went in 1981. He swore in the 14th of January 1981, and he served until January 20th of 1989.
I thought he was sworn in on January 20th till January 20th, according to his record. That's according to the record.
The 14th of January is when he took office.
Oh.
Because 2 days later, I was in the desert getting hostages.
Oh, okay. Well,
Wikipedia has it January 20th, 1981 to January 20th, 1989.
Right.
So that's what they say
in
in
Wikipedia. Knew him before he took office.
So you told him, say that again, what year did you tell him about the extraterrestrial craft?
He's not sure
he said,
of the exact year.
Not sure.
He
knew. By the time he was president, and that's probably why Reagan said, imagine if we had a threat greater than us, and how would we react? Would that pull us together out of the people?
He wanted to release,
and he said that twice. He said that twice during his presidency, and I think that they Alzheimer'd him. I think that they can accelerate that procedure, and I think that they took him out that way. That's my theory.
Conspiracy.
Tom, he was reelected.
Theories are not to do to upset you or anyone else, but everybody's got a theory on any subject that you want to name. I don't necessarily mean it's right, but it also don't necessarily mean it's right. It is a theory.
The truth.
And whenever you speak of the government, it's a conspiracy theory. If you speak about your neighbor, it's just gossip and a theory. But if you speak about the government, then it's a conspiracy. So
conspiracy versus gossip. Well, Tom, he was reelected after his landslide in '84, and that's even on Wikipedia. But you knew him his first term and his second term, and you did the investigation on who shot him. And,
right.
But we can go in that later.
So how did both of you meet Reagan? What was the circumstance?
I met him for the first time in Houston. I met him in Houston.
What was going on in Houston?
They wanted me to meet him.
What was going on?
I was young, up-and-coming intelligence agency, because remember, May 67, when I was 16, I was in the paper in Houston. And I don't know what year I met him, but I know he was going to be running for office, and I thought it was hilarious. He already had Secret Service around him when I met him. So I've got a long history that Tom doesn't even know about. I've told him because he said...
So what year was that approximately? You may not know the exact
probably
year.
Probably 1980.
I met him between 70... no, because I hadn't moved to Houston yet. It was while he was running. He was a California senator, and I met him before he made office. He made office in 80. So I probably...
Well, 80 was the election year, and he was elected in November and took office the following January.
Yeah, but I met him before that. He already had Secret Service around him. They wanted me to meet him. They took me out of this big room. I was at a big ball in Houston. Big, huge room. Everybody, 8 people sitting at the tables. I had on an evening gown. I had to be approved to go meet him. And they did my back. Of course, I was already approved through NASA and my husband and background check. And so they brought me out in the hallway to make sure that we met. It was all prearranged.
So do you think that they knew, who is they for one thing, but do you think that the powers that be knew that Reagan was going to be president someday, and they were...
I think extraterrestrials know everything, and I believe because I had already been, did the spiritual dead thing, I think is part of it. I think out-of-body near-death is only part of leaving the body. But I also believe the extraterrestrials are part of what we do. And then, on top of that, you have the intelligence community that likes to think they are pre-arranging everything. And so Tom and I are involved with all of this, Janet. And so to answer your question, I believe the extraterrestrials are viewing all this and have some part in me being part extraterrestrial, we all are. I'm not trying to exclude myself from humans. But these humanoids that work with Tom and I are humanoid. And Tom and I were both working with them when we met. And I had already met Tom. I mean, not Tom. Tom says he met me through a scope. I can't admit or deny. But I can admit when I met Reagan. And I met Reagan at a big, huge ball in an evening gown with him, and they brought me out into the hallway and him out in the hallway. And I remember the first time I saw him, the Secret Service had him in a circle all around him because there was other people out in the hallway, and they already had me standing in the hallway waiting on him with men around me. And I remember people with cameras were way back through the other doors trying to get into the hallway that led towards the cafeteria or wherever they brought the food in. And it was prearranged, and I was surrounded by men in black, and he was surrounded by men in black. And when he looked, they pushed him out of the conference room back, and he had his arm up straight out over his head, over his shoulder, up over a man, and he looked over his right shoulder. He looked like he was like he's being hung up on a clothesline because it was hilarious. So by the time he looked over his shoulder, now I'm a very pretty young girl, but I wound up doing psychic work for him too. But anyway, he looks over at me, and I start laughing. And I'm like, is that Ronald Reagan? He's the one y'all wanted me to meet? And then they told me, oh, don't laugh, and all this. And he's looking, and he starts laughing. And he just gets sort of embarrassed. But what it was, I'm like, why?
Well, what was the reason? What did they tell you? Why were they putting you together?
They said they'd tell me later. It didn't matter. They just wanted us to meet. So
the Republican Party saying this.
It was a Republican Party thing.
Said you have to meet Ronald Reagan. They didn't tell you why.
Interrupt.
Okay, go ahead.
Janet, you need to. I don't even know if you could find it nowadays or not. You probably have to special order. But watch Ronald Reagan's B-class movie called Bedtime for Bonzo.
I've seen Bedtime for. What is the reason that we want to watch Bedtime for Bonzo?
Well, me and Reagan, we got to know one another reasonable. I mean, we were not bosom buddies, but and he'd start rattling, or really going off the deep end sometime, and I'd say, well, I knew we should have elected Bonzo. And he would make us both laugh.
He liked to laugh. He liked humor. He liked everyday people.
And then he would be backgrounded, There was occasions
that it was cute.
Things was really, really straining on him, and he'd get really, really worried and stressed, and he'd call me from Europe or Asia or wherever I was at, and he'd just be going, not making much sense. He'd jump from one thing to the other, and things that was bothering him, and it was hard to keep track of it. And this was when he was first president.
A little bit. Yeah.
And I would, pop off something about Bonzo, and it would make us laugh, and he'd calm down, and then he could tell me what the problem was, and then I solved it. Or whatever.
People who do that stream of consciousness are often, they've been traumatized in some way. So maybe there was something that he was trying to
and a lot of
get
times,
centered.
Janet, it's not just psychological, Janet. A lot of people like you and me, we work in gamma waves as much as we do alpha or beta waves. So you got to remember, he was extremely brilliant, and he was an actor. So he was able to use both sides of his brain at the same time. So when you're using left and right brain and your center brain, sometimes you come across at that gamma wave. And you can have all these things hitting you at one time. But, gradually they think it's just
I don't know about your brain waves and all that good stuff. I'm just a simple hillbilly country boy from the hills of Kentucky.
That plays it
but
too.
When you have 20 different people hollering at you.
And I've seen it. He's done it.
Africa's about to attack us.
What do we need to do?
Just building troops. Another guy hollers, China has sent troops here. And, I mean, you have these problems
We've both seen him that way,
worldwide, and you have 20 different problems and
yes.
20 different people coming to you
It's
saying,
terrible.
you're the president, solve these problems. So he's
Right.
got all these problems in his head, and he's calling me, and he's saying, okay, I've got several problems I need you to take care of, and then he had to stop and think about which ones, because he had 20, he had to sort them out again.
Right.
Everybody says, well, you know, that should be easy. That's because they haven't tried it. All right. There was nothing wrong with Reagan's mental capabilities. It was just a lot of crap thrown at him at one time. I mean, of course, every president's that way. I've got to put it in for anyone that runs for president has got to be very naive, or they wouldn't want the job.
Very true. So let's get back on track. We got into Reagan, and so Reagan was a critical key personality in this whole story. But back to your story, you guys were on the craft. You were on the world famous Roswell craft, and
right.
And Reagan wanted to know about the craft. He must have heard stories.
I gave him a briefing every night. All the time
so
I was away thing.
So he wasn't able to act on it. He wasn't able to bring about disclosure. Did you talk about, he want to bring about disclosure?
He was never officially briefed on the aircraft. The reason being that they gave him was deniability.
Same thing with Eisenhower, Janet. They don't tell the president. That's why Clinton didn't know.
That way he can deny he knows anything about it.
I have to tell you a story that I've been investigating, and I'm getting it from 3 or 4 different sources, so I think it's actually true. And I wanted to run this past you, but no better place than here. There was a fellow named Valiant Thor, and he was Venusian, and he landed on not the White House lawn, but he was right outside in Virginia there. What part of Virginia?
I used to study his story years ago.
You're right. So let me tell you what's going on with the story. So, and I'll just say it for our listeners too. So Valiant Thor landed right outside of Washington in the middle of the highway, and the police came and arrested him because he didn't have any ID as a citizen. He was an illegal alien, literally. But he let them cuff him, but he didn't. He just waved his hand, and it fell off. And they took him to the president. Excuse me. The president at that time was Eisenhower, and the vice president was there. So Eisenhower and Nixon were in on the story. And Valiant Thor was housed at the Pentagon for 3 years. And he was at all these different state dinners, and he met all these people. Now, the one story that I heard from Robert Potter, who investigated it, that all the presidents down to Kennedy and Reagan wasn't a president, but for some reason the Kennedys, because Kennedy was president during that time. Hold on, I'm going to cough. Hold on.
All right, Kennedy, then Johnson, Ford, Nixon, right?
Right. Those early era, they were in on it. So,
or Nixon, Ford.
And I get this from 3 or 4 different people. I have a woman named Onek that's coming on. I'll be right back. I got to get something to drink. You guys talk for 1 second. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, anyway, Valiant Thor, there's a... I don't know what she wants to know about if we can prove or deny we've met this guy, but it's a story, Tom. We can talk about later about Valiant Thor, but it's a name in the UFO community, and there's conspiracy theories about him and urban legends and all of that. Whether he did or did not do anything is up for grabs, but it's got nothing to do with us, his ET visitation, but I don't know where she's going with this. folks. So we'll wait and see when she gets back. So supposedly he really came to Earth, or he did not, is the story, right? Whether he did or did not.
I'm back. I'm back, and I didn't hear anything you said.
Okay,
well,
I said,
the story is that which presidents were in the know? That's what we're trying to decipher, is which presidents knew about the extraterrestrial. Now, I guess Eisenhower and Nixon were the last official
They found
ones
out on
to
their
know.
own. They found out on their own.
Well, they met with this guy, Valiant Thor, who apparently proved who he was because he had different. He didn't have any fingerprints. He didn't have a belly button. He was an ascended being, meaning he came right from source. He wasn't born into physical form, that's why he didn't have a belly button. And
I don't know, but it's probably not good to mix stories because it has nothing to do with us.
This is a story I have from 3 different people. What we're just saying is which presidents knew. So I didn't know if Reagan was in on that loop.
We can only tell you first-hand information, Janet.
Okay, so you know that he knew.
We don't deal with conspiracy theories
because you told him. But officially he didn't.
Reagan officially did not know about the UFO in Roswell, New Mexico, or in White Sands, New Mexico. He knew what the public knew, and that was it.
So do you think they were pissed at him when he said that twice he said the statement about the extraterrestrials? I think that really upset the powers that be.
Oh, yeah, they took it out of the speech, Janet. He put it back in. They totally took it out of his speech. Remember, my best friend's father was one of his writers. Okay, we don't need all this extra information, but basically, yes, he insisted on it being put back into his speech.
There's another story that goes along with that. Before Reagan, Jimmy Carter was another one that was very interested in the UFO phenomenon. He had seen a UFO in Georgia when he was a young man.
Right.
Unfortunately, I went in at the same time he was leaving office.
And
I never met
I didn't meet him
Carter.
Either. But we know Charles that did and put up the Secretary of Defense in his house because we both worked for Charles in Georgia. Okay,
so
we won't go there either. Too much information.
Too much. So let's just focus back on the Reagan presidency. So he knew, and then what was his reaction to you, Tom, telling him these reports every night? What did he say to you?
He was, as the old saying goes, he was all ears, and he was always asking for more information. He was excited, and of course, the weapon system on the aircraft was his main concern. However, as far as what we define as a weapon, this aircraft didn't have any. But it did have the capabilities of jamming frequencies, making any electronic device fail. And if you don't know anything about engines in modern day, everything is hooked up to a computer. Airplanes, everything. And if it's electronic, he can jam the electronics where it won't work. So I said, the aircraft.
Gus could do this. The aircraft is called Gus, right?
Right. Yeah, he can even wake you up if we want him to. One morning.
But if Gus can do this, then does he do something to not harm people, or does he just take out craft?
Well,
not with no
his
regard to the life on it.
See, he was never to fly again from 47. He was to be put into the human facilities to monitor the human progress in all aspects, from childbirth to taking care of their elderly to all the science and spacecrafts and attempts to make better weapons and all that.
This isn't their first time to put us on Earth.
To monitor all aspects of the human race.
Let me ask
you.
Janet, how does Gus the ship? Wait. Let me just. How does Gus the ship monitor all this stuff from him when he's in underground in the Area 51?
Well, believe it or not, Area 51 is not got walls of lead or any other type metal. And his view or his capabilities can travel for miles. Now, you've got to understand that radio signals do not curve around the Earth. All right?
Signal.
When they are sent out, they go straight line and forever.
Right.
All right? So that's why they had to have 5, so they could pick up these different frequencies and monitor the phones and the airwaves and the TV and the news and elections and whatever else that they deemed necessary to observe.
And give us guys so they could pick up ways to learn more about computers.
And he could also tap into
wait.
our
Say that
satellite.
again, TJ? Wait. What'd you say, TJ? Give us what?
They can nudge us but not push us. Now, I hope, Tom, we only got a few minutes. I want him to make sure that we get that on tape or on archive. Tom, you've told her about the 5 ships, but also tell her, please, or share that this isn't the first time we as humanoids have been on Earth. And, Tom, tell her about the past times. This is too short.
Well, they told me, and when I say they, I mean the
humanoid
powers to be that was on the command ship. Told me that they had been monitoring Earth for several thousand years, and that when they got involved and tried to help the human race advance faster than what they were doing, that it turned out to be a disaster. They would get too power hungry, and they would, start wars with neighboring peoples, and they just couldn't handle the technology. So they made it a directive. But see, now Gus was a machine, all right? So,
right, but he was intelligent, right?
He was a very intelligent machine, but he had to go by the orders given, and he was strictly forbidden to interface with the human race.
And they don't want us to know about them under certain. It's like we're experiments or testing as a whole human race. And Tom, real quick, tell her you never met any of the. Basically, Janet, we're here as an experiment. They know we're here, but we've been here before. You can go back thousands, discuss Anunnaki or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're talking to the people that say they've watched us. We've done this stuff. They put us here. They know we're here. They've given us technology before. We blew ourselves up. We're back again, and it sort of throws the God business right out the window. But Tom didn't want to know about the God story. So God has always been. So we won't talk about that, okay, folks? Because that'll totally destroy everything.
Do you want to know about the God story?
Well, Tom didn't want to know.
Okay.
It's simple. I was raised in the Bible Belt. My dad was a Baptist preacher. My uncle was a Pentecostal preacher. My grandfather was a Methodist preacher, and the other one was a Methodist preacher. And
right.
I have my own ideals of the religion. I'm not a church-going religious person. I believe in Christ. In the Bible, it says, where there's two or more gathered in my name, I shall be there also. You don't need a big church with crystal chandeliers to be religious.
Right.
It's a social club nowadays, and I just don't want to belong to it.
So God was an E.T., Janet. Jesus was an E.T., and Tom and I will not go there because too many people
that's
have their own
opinion. My opinion is they weren't E.T.s. But
well, they didn't come from the planet. Not the way you may think of it. See,
we're all extraterrestrial because our soul doesn't
if nothing else, science says we're stardust, okay? So we all come from somewhere, but we're not from here. So the basic idea is that religion, governments, economies, and all that are based on us, man-made. A lot of people say the religions are man-made, and the Bible was man-made because man wrote it, even if we reclassified it or we rewrote it in various languages. So, folks, if you want to go back, all the way back, we're all from out there. So we're all extraterrestrial. That's the bottom line. Even God and Jesus and whoever else is here, we're all extraterrestrial.
Well, let's focus. We're running out of time here. How about if Tom, if you come back next week? We're doing this on what is today? Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, Wednesday. TJ and I are doing our own show on Wednesday. I'd love to have you back again because I think it's on.
We're going to have to run it longer.
Well, we can just start earlier. We kind of ran into some glitches, and I didn't join until like 15 or 20 minutes into the show. So we can just begin earlier on time. 90 minutes probably be about sufficient because I've got to go.
We're fixing to be able to go over. It'll be on archive, Janet. We can discuss a little more on archive if you have time to do that, and then somehow we can get you to
I'd like to kind of stop here because I've got I got to take care of something with the tenant, and I put them on hold, and they've been texting me. I can hear them. So, yeah, I got to go take care of something before the sun goes down over here. But this is good, cliffhanger for the people that are listening. And we will cover this. We're going to start next week. If TJ, you want to make a note of this, where we left off.
Yeah. I've got it recorded.
We're going to start with what the interaction with the Greys and what did they tell Tom and you about the history of the universe or the history of humanity and how many times we've been here and how many times we've blown each other up and started over. I'd love to hear that.
Well, the Greys and the humanoids work together. I'll tell you that right now. They're both on the planet. I mean, they're both in space. There's 5 ships on the planet, and there's at least 5 in the flotilla out in space. The ones you call near Mars or hiding behind the moon or keeping out of microwave range on the planet.
And this is a group of extraterrestrials, humanoids, and the Greys are working in harmony, correct?
We are they. Yeah, they watch over us.
So then, who are the reptilians? Are they good, bad, ugly, not existing?
Non-existing. That's movies. And you remember what was it? Twin Pines movie on TV where the lady was eating mice. She was a reptile. And
no, I didn't see that one.
It's a really weird movie. But anyway.
But Tom, we can't tell them about the war.
So that's and are there archons? That's another thing we're doing. But we can talk about this next week. Archons. Yeah, because I'm interviewing
Archons
a fellow.
Archons is thought to be me too. So who knows? Well, I don't know anymore, Jen. Yeah. Even Archons, I thought we were called Archons, but apparently not. So I don't know what we're called here on the planet because apparently they're not anything that is the people we are in the God story before the God story. So only they up there know. But the fact is we know they exist for real, and Ronnie Reagan knew they existed for real. But the second time Tom went in, the Army guy didn't want Tom, and he told Reagan, and Reagan and him decided not to push it. So unfortunately, there are powers that are stronger than the president, people that work with ETs, and we don't, right now we got to fix the system, but we're not sure how that's going to happen. So just so you know, the Army kept Tom out of there, too.
All right. Well, let's leave it for here now. I've got to run. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next Wednesday. We're going to start at, 3 p.m. Hawaii time? And what time is that for you?
9:30 right now, but I can make mine 2 hours. I think you can, too, can't you? But you want to make it
Okay. So we'll see you next week for another episode talking. And, Tom, please do join us again. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I don't have any outro music or anything today, so I just have to say aloha. Love and blessings.
Aloha.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody.
Good night, Janet.
Good night.
All right. That's Janet.
Night.
Tom will still be here. Okay, that was Janet Share Lessin from Hawaii with the Ascension Center in Maui, Hawaii, with her own questions, and I think it's hilarious the way that we communicate, and for whatever reason, we enjoy sharing with Janet and having her ask questions, because sometimes when you've been involved with your own life, you really don't know the questions to ask yourself as to what people would be interested in your life, because you lived it, you've experienced it. Now, Tom, as far as working with the 5 ships on the planet for the archive purposes, I know we've got things that Janet will want to ask, but there's some areas that, I guess we should say that even though Ronald Reagan knew about it, we may want to explain to them that he never released information because he wasn't really allowed to, because he was finding it out for himself. Can you explain that, why? Because that's a good question as to why didn't you and he go ahead and talk to the chiefs, because you've been in the room with the White House and the Oval Office with him on many occasions. Why didn't you guys discuss with the chiefs of staff in the Pentagon what you knew?
Reagan made that decision to keep it among themselves. Several reasons. Security, national security, 50 years of lying about it wouldn't be prudent to come out and say, oh, well, everything we've been telling you for the last 50 years is a lie. This is the truth. It wouldn't have been prudent to start with. And Reagan knew the truth. That's all he wanted.
For himself.
Yeah. To satisfy his own mind.
He didn't necessarily want to change the world at that time about the information with ETs.
Well, the stamina of the day was very voodoo. If you was in politics, extraterrestrials and UFOs and stuff like that was voodoo. It was bad voodoo. Yeah. If you wanted to get out of politics, just say you've seen a flying UFO.
And they made that
drop you like you was a hot potato.
Well, we weren't in Kennedy or Carter administration, but we came in, we both came in under Reagan's administration, meaning the Republicans were in office. That's who put him in power. And even though his party may not have knew, and the Pentagon, now classified, there's many people working for the joint that don't know, and the Army, and basically from what you understand and what you experienced, the Army is in control of our UFO. We don't know who's controlling the other 4, because they're each on a part of the planet on another tectonic plate, like China, Africa, Australia, maybe South America and Asia, or maybe, I don't know. How do we break up Eurasia?
I don't remember how it was broke up now, but there's 5 total ships, and they're strategically located, and each government has control over the ship. But what I tried to tell you a while ago, the ship appears to be inert, non-functional. And everybody assumes that it's just sitting there because it don't show any sign of have any activity with it. So, and it does. I mean, it's better word. It's cloaked in its true identity.
All right.
So
well, let's say that
monitor.
we know that there's one in North America, and yet you used to tell me they were on the basically the 5 major continents. Does that still hold true?
Right. Right.
But at the same time, for them to go around the continent to get the best waves, technically we could look at how one would get all, putting them in straight lines. Where would you put these ships so they could get all the information? But they'd want it from the most
I don't
amount
know.
of people.
For one, you got to remember now they can use any satellite that's in the air. So therefore, they can bounce information to off of the any satellite to the next ship. Gus was updated. I don't know how often, but it was every 30 minutes or so on each other's observance, what they had observed in that last 30 minutes. And he sent out to them. So all 5 of them had a duplicate recording of each other. So if one of them, if they were discovered and started being destroyed, at least one of them would be able to get back to the command ship with all the info that had been gathered since 47.
All right, now let's say that they took us back, or we died instantly today, or the government decided they had to get rid of us, or whatever. For whatever reason, we're no longer to communicate on the planet with all these people that may be able to come back and get this information. If we were the people that were allowed to communicate with the planet and to advance humanity in what forms that they can make human progress together, we know 2 things. They want us to learn to fight in space, and they want us to keep using our imaginations. Was that the 2 things? I mean, after all the time you spent, it's my understanding that those are the 2 most important things we have on the planet. 1, we'll fight to save our planet. Number 2 is we come up with all these great ways to use the brain and imagination, like you playing cards and why you picked this one over that one, or how they were able to monitor everything you did. So do you think they're monitoring everybody? Because that's something Bill and Tracer wanted to know. Are only certain people?
I don't think they monitor everyone. For one, although they are advanced in technology, that would take an awful lot of electronics to monitor every human on this earth, and they're increasing every day. So it's key personnel that is monitored.
Well, considering we're monitored 24/7, so how long will it take them to know from here back up to the flotilla? I don't know what you call them. I call them the flotilla because they're floating in space like they are on the ships we had in the Navy. But, I prefer Navy terms and you prefer Army terms. But let's say, how long does it take them from right now with us talking? Will the Supreme Council above the commanders in space know? Will they?
Well, the command ships can tap in using Gus and the others and monitor real world time on any point on the planet, and they would receive it immediately. I mean, just like they were sitting across from you.
So they could be listening to our conversation right now.
To get it back from the command ship to the Great Council, sometimes it will be a week Earth time before a wormhole will develop, or they can send it back to the home world. And once they send it, it takes, I think he said, 4 or 5 Earth days to go from the ship to the receiver at the home world. And
now, where do you believe homeworld is?
I don't know. He told me, he showed me, but that was 20 years ago. And to tell you the honest truth, I was never into the stars. So it was Greek to me most of the time.
But it was outside your galaxy, Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
And I told
that's
you
why
I always...
they need the wormhole. That's
and I
why
always
they
told
need
you,
the wormhole to send it to their galaxy.
Now, they told you it was the closest galaxy, but Andromeda Galaxy was the one I was always talking about before I met you. And that is the closest, I thought was the closest galaxy that would be over 1 billion years, be connecting to our own. And they were concerned that if these beings that rape and pillage other planets traveled towards ours, that we would in turn want to help them with their galaxy. Is that the way you understood it to be?
Well, yeah, they figure if we're discovered, they will be, for one. And two, if they can have the war here instead of in their backyard, you know, it's just like the United States in World War II. We wanted to keep the war in Europe and not in our soil, on our soil. So, you know, they're the same way. We're Europe and they're United States, and they want to keep the war out of they're out of the United States and over in Europe or South.
Well, now let's tell the people like Richard Dolan out there that's listening, or Nick Pope, or heaven forbid, even George Noory for other radio shows. We'll say that, can you hear me? I just heard somebody drop off. Okay. Let's say that you and I know that we're here for a purpose, just like everybody else. And we've been off planet, we've been here, and you wanted to come back here to die. You didn't want to stay up there, although you could, and we know that time is different. And gradually the information is going to come by to the world anyway with the Internet and all that we're doing and sharing. But let's say that people did believe us for whatever reason, or they were supposed to tune in and hear this show or find it on archives. This is pretty important information as far as you and I are concerned. It's life-changing information if people accept it the way we have. But experience is totally different from hearing somebody talk about it. But hearing, you got to hear people firsthand. Some people can just know it and believe it, just like you did about your God story. That's what you'd been taught, and you chose to believe it. Whether it was true or not, that's what you chose to believe. People can choose to believe us or not. The point is there's some people in science, in NASA, in the world trying to get us up in space. And we can't get there fast enough as far as I'm concerned, because I know the downside story is this other group of people. And you know, you and I have talked about the people, the various kind of aliens, I guess we'll say, that have been on this planet. But those, we've heard many, many stories, and unless we can know them firsthand, we don't discuss them. But now on ship, we both agree, we've both seen grays and humanoids, and we talk about them in our book probably. But we've talked about some blues because they did a show on, I think, didn't I take you to the show, Avatar, with the blue people with the tails?
Yeah.
I think it was George Cameron or something Cameron, I forgot his name, did that show. But you said there was some with a blue color, but not a tail, right, that you saw? That. Yeah. You don't like to go into that, huh? but okay, we'll say for right now, the only ones we're willing to discuss are ones that we are familiar with, and we're not going to go into people's, whether they've imagined them or not. But it was James Cameron's Avatar. But even Gigi wanted to know, because Gigi was born with blue baby, as a blue baby, and had a little tail. We had to have it cut off, but she was a blue baby with a tail. So she related to Avatar, especially with her mother, and seeing UFOs and extraterrestrial experience, et cetera, et cetera. You saw people, so go ahead and let them know, with a light tinge blue, did you not?
Yes.
Working in space.
There were several different species on the command ship and on the adjacent ships. They all had their own jobs and did their own things, and no, that's that. I mean, it's just like here on Earth, we have English, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, German. They're all the same, but they're all different. Different complexions, different skin colors, different attitudes or beliefs, and it's the same way up there. It's just a greater difference in appearance, language, and stuff like that. So you can't say, well, the blue people. That's like calling Chinese people the yellow people, or Africa the black people, or it's they're intelligent beings, and you have to keep that in mind and not pay as much attention to their color or their real long legs or extra long arms or whatever may be the difference. The Army always had a policy that every person in the Army was not any color except green. Every soldier in the United States Army is green. Think of them as green, and then you don't have this racist problem, because the black guy next to you, he is now green. The Chinese guy on the other side, he's green. So, and you're green. So all of you are the same color, so us don't have any racist problems. And that's the way you have to think about them up there. They're all pink or whatever color you want to decide. In actuality, they're different colors, just like here on Earth. You have dark black people, you have dark brown people, Mexicans, you have red-skinned people, the Indians, you have yellow-skinned Chinese, you have
well, we know on the planet. What colors did you see on the ships?
Well, it's the same way, you have, brown and yellow and blue and kind of an off green. You have different colors. Just about any color in the rainbow, actually, is represented by some intelligent race on that ship, or ships, I should say.
And it's your understanding there's 5 main ships. Can you remember there was the flagship where you and I would go, and then the other 4 where one grew plants and one had animals, or was that together?
Each ship had their own garden deck and had their own livestock deck, and they had their own. Each ship did. Each ship was self-sufficient. They provided their food and clothing and all that good stuff. But in a necessary situation that can transport, meat to one of the other ships and corn back to the ship that they just got the meat from, or whatever, if it's necessary. But they tried to make each ship independent, self-sufficient. So if a war did break out, they could spread out and not have to be in contact with each other constantly for ammunition or spare parts and food.
Now, I was asking them, since we met and worked with Reagan, if they could have more ships so we could start changing this planet and getting people where they could see ships. Now, there's various ship sightings around the world, and so people are seeing them more. Now, how can we put people at ease about all these other things that people are channeling or imagining or saying that we're not going to be able to stop people from having contact or ET experiences? But what is your understanding of all these people that say that they've been abducted? We're not trying to disprove or prove or make them feel bad or make them think we don't believe them, because there's been too many that say that they've been abducted. But you didn't learn about anything like that, right? You only knew of working together in space, and the common cause was to come here, work for 2 years on the ship, or 4 years, however many years they signed up to, and it's just a job. And they're up there monitoring the planet and watching human progress. For what reason?
Well, the reason is simple, isn't see how we have progressed. And you say that people see these different aircraft. And, well, you've got to stop and think they're a lot like us in some ways. An airplane in 1942 was a whole lot different than the airplane of today, from fighter planes to passenger planes.
Right, we're changing them every year.
So,
we've got
right. So and they improve. Each generation improves it, and it's the same way with them. They manufacture their shuttles and what have you on the ships. So therefore, every year they may improve this, or we don't need this anymore, and they change the ship. And so yes, you would see different types of aircraft nowadays, and they
bring them
47.
to the planet, and they do interconnect in jobs down on the planet. And you met some that spoke German or French with an accent. Some work on there, and they come and go to this planet. You've even involved in the United Nations from time to time. So when they come here, do you know how long that they're allowed to work here? You've even said they have their own Central Intelligence Agency. And then we know there's communication.
I don't know. That's internal affairs, Teresa, and they wouldn't divulge that unless I had a need to know how long each agent stays on Earth. But the way I understand it, it's the world's gravity that prohibits them to stay on Earth for a very long period of time. Like I said, I have no idea of how long they can stay. And
I didn't know that the gravity, because they weren't born here, the gravity does affect them.
Right. See, our gravity is either lighter or stronger than their gravity, and it affects their muscles after a period of time. And so it's just like when our people go into space and there's no gravity at all. When they come back, they have space legs. They can't stand up. They can't use their legs because they've been without gravity for so long that it wears them out just to be barefooted and walk across the room. The gravity pulling against that foot makes them, makes it feel like you got 5-gallon buckets full of concrete on your feet, and it takes a while for our astronauts to get over that.
So it's the same thing with them.
Although our muscles are used to it, so we walk across the floor and don't think anything about it. But that's because our muscles is used to the exact gravity we have. And these aliens can adapt and get used to the gravity, but it affects their muscles to a degree that they can only stay on Earth for so long, and then they have to go back, and they can't come back to Earth again because it never really heals. In other words, if they went up, healed up, come back, within 30 days, they'd be right back to where they were, health-wise, with the muscles, because it tears and wears out the muscle, because their body's not made for it.
Can you help explain the gravity? Because right now they understand gravity in Earth's atmosphere, and the scientists are trying to prove how to be in space in a gravity environment, but they're not doing a very good job of it. But you don't know the proper way to explain how it works in space, right? Because...
Well, on the ship, for me, it was just like being here on Earth. The gravity was so close that it didn't bother me. I could, walk and all that good stuff, and never even thought about it. But it's manufactured gravity. How they make it, I don't know. But the United States will sooner, or the human race will sooner or later figure it out, and the space station will be just like here on Earth. But
so we're not giving them any clues.
They have to do it on their own.
All right, now what is that about? Because they have nudged us. They nudged Tesla and Einstein, I'm sure. I heard the story about Einstein putting bricks in it, and I believe it, that they would nudge him from time to time in his sleep or whatever. But let's give people some something.
Teresa, I got to go. I'm getting sick of my stomach all of a sudden. I got to go.
All right, darling. All right. Good. All right, baby. I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, folks.
Right.
I guess that's going to be it. Okay, good night. We're going to be off here in a few minutes anyway because we went out at 8 and they're going to cut us off. So good night, honey. All right. Well, did you say goodbye, Tom? Good night. Okay. I guess he did. All right, folks. They're fixing to cut us off anyway and say thank you for choosing Blog Talk Radio because they're so sweet. So we will begin again, and I only signed up for 90 minutes, but they let me go over. So thank you, Tom and Janet, for joining me tonight. And it's not on here. It's not going to be on the marquee. Only those that are meant to hear this information and are ready to hear it will hear it, and it's up to you whether you believe it or not. But as far as I know, everything we've said tonight's been nothing but the truth. So hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's enlightening, and those that are meant to find it will. And hopefully we're going to get together and have our Divine Expo in this lifetime. Every year, Tom doesn't know if he's going to be around, and I'd like to do one with him, but I don't know if we can get him to get there for a weekend. But he's down to 94 pounds, and it is from going in space, but mainly from being a bayonet or knife along knife cut his when he got stabbed when he was over in Iran and Iraq working with. He worked for Colin Powell when he was stabbed, and he went over to the hospital ship. I think it was Hope we had over there. I think we had Mercy and Hope, I forget, in the Navy. But folks, we're doing the best we can to remain happy and alive on planet Earth. And life's tough, but we're going to all get through it. We all survive, and there's enough for everybody out there. We have plenty of abundance, and that's what 2014 is about. So, and in the uplifting world of being here on the planet, just think about health and prosperity. Do the best you can with what you've got, and we'll all try to start helping each other make a little more. And if anybody out there is in a way that we can help each other, we'll just think we have various donation buttons and ways to help each other on our various websites. and I hope you can find your way there. We have ascensioncenter.org and ascensioncenter.org, excuse me. It's not ascensioncenter.org. It's ascensioncenterorg.com, and we have AmericanNewsMagazine.com, socialparanormal.com, anewnews.com. I have TeresaJMorris.org, TeresaJMorris.com, and we have AceNonprofitInc.com and ACOcorp.com. And we're probably going to give up some, but right now we're getting the word out the best we can. And we'd appreciate you tuning in. We never know what we're going to share, so what's going to come up just depends on when the universe is ready to support us and let us know that we are sharing each other and the world that we are creating. So it's ACOcorp.org, by the way. That's not .com. It's ACOcorp.org, because I just looked, and that's a lumber company. So ACOcorp.org. And I post from time to time in various locations, and appreciate you staying in contact with us. And we have acefolklife.org as well. But check out ACORP.org, and check out divineexpo.com, DIVINE expo.com, and we have etseminars.com. And we should be sharing this in an arena of those that feel like they're ready to be a part of what the future holds with the reality. And the new reality is that we are in the ascension age. We are extraterrestrials already on the planet, and we are ready to know the truth that's been kept from us in the past. And the reason Roswell, for all you young people out there to know, is that that's where it all began, with our truth, with sharing the AT world, that alien civilizations exist. And we started coming with support groups and various museums, books. We started with talking among ourselves, having little groups in houses in the 50s and 60s, talking among ourselves, and then we grew. And then we started sharing books and magazines like Fate magazine, and that is still in effect, and we have grown. So don't forget, we do have a history in this UFO world, and it was Arnold, gosh, I forgot his name now, but if you can, look at the movie Taken with made by Steven Spielberg for television, Taken, and that starts with the Foo Fighters and all the people back in the day during the wars, and then 47 when they put the 5 ships on the planet to monitor Earth and our human progress and what we're doing here. And Tom and I could have come in 87, 97, 2007 in person, but we chose not to. We talked about it, we were asked to, but it wasn't our place, and we had to see how it was going to be accepted, and we've had a lot of people in the military come forth, and now we have people supporting us with exopolitics and disclosure movements, and Richard Dolan and Stephen Bassett and Stephen Greer and various people, and I guess sooner or later we're going to be telling our story if we get it down before we die, that is, and several books, but, we've got to make them look better and be better. But you can start getting an idea in the Roswell UFO encounters, Roswell UFO encounters, and Tom and I both share the money, which isn't much because there's not that many people in tune to it yet. Roswell UFO encounters in the Taken Up book, and they're on Amazon.com. But hopefully we're going to get there, folks, and get the reality that this is real, and we'll start getting into a lot of more details when you ask these questions. And Janet, with the Ascension Center was from the extraterrestrials, and the emblem and how we're proceeding forward is just to those that want to believe that they are real, they are us, how we communicate together, and apparently they do only choose certain people for whatever reasons, and I know that Tom and I are 2 of those, and I hope that you are too. If you're a believer and you know that you're a part of the future in the Ascension Age, that is what we now call it. And this 2,560 years or whatever. It's 2,496. Depends on the world and what they have in store for us. But we are a part of it, and we're asking for you to be a part of it too in our Body, Mind, Spirit group, in our Love and Light, in our Changing the World for a Better Place. And you realize, Tom, and all the people can still have their science and their religion and their philosophy and theosophy and their governments and their economy. We're not trying to change any of that. We're just trying to get people at a level where they can understand more about the truth. And how we present it is each person's perceptions, filters, opinions, views, experiences, and their truth. So how we can bring more people together is important. And I'm all about meeting new friends and people. It's just that Tom is on dialysis 3 days a week, and he's pretty much committed to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to dialysis. And if he joins us, it'll probably have to be on a Saturday night where he has Sunday and Monday off and has to be back by Tuesday. So any of you guys preparing conferences for people such as myself and I to be at, we're not doing anything. We haven't done anything, and it'll take a lot of talking for us to get involved with that. But in the meantime, I sit here doing our radio show where you can find us, and occasionally Tom will join us. And I do love him very much. We became best friends, and we share our life and our finances. So I did talk to some people today, and I've got at least 20 or 30 people all wanting to work towards a conference to bring us together and to share the truth. So if you know people out there that want to share their real UFO experiences and their real extraterrestrial knowledge, and they want to know it firsthand from people that they don't know about or haven't experienced or haven't even bothered to ask the truth. And I'm amazed at some of these big names that probably don't even want to know the truth because they're making their own stories, writing their own history, and writing their own books. And it amazes me how various people aren't coming and asking what the real truth is. That's why we're working with Janet. She's the only one that's bothered to read our book and believe in us, and God bless her for that. And I don't think she may even believe in the God source at that level that we talk about, but that's okay. Consciously, we're all part of the source and the force, and something put us here, and something put those people there, and they know the stories. So hopefully you can get up there and be a part of that too, and that's what so many people are looking forward to, and we're sure not going to try to take away people's belief systems, their trust, their faith, their philosophies, and all that history and our ancestors have put here, because we have ancestors too, and they've passed to the other side, and some of our children, grandchildren are living here on the planet. So we sure don't want to upset the apple cart. We just want to see things in a better way, in a future way, and if we can help in our way, in our time, we're willing to do that. So check us out. We have the ACO Business Journal, we have Divine Expo, and hopefully we are going to come together for the right reasons and meet each other in this lifetime. So God bless, and I'm gone over a little over, but we got a little late start, so it's going to be about 10 after 10, and I think I'm going to call it quits. And I will see you for the first time, I believe, Friday night. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday right now. And we have other people interested in Tuesday, Thursday, which can put me back on a 7-day work week. But when I'm not on the line, I'm helping people with their books, their stories, their conferences, their seminars, whatever it is they want to create. So it seems to be I don't have enough time in the day now to get everything done. So it does feel like time speeded up, and we, of course, share the spiritual metaphysical community. So love and light, folks. I'm out of here till Friday night. God bless. Don't let the creek out. Come back and see us now, you hear? Love and light.